a plethora of news reporters, weather people, and other TV personalities began to speak absolute nonsense out of nowhere. Even Judge Judy had an episode of speaking absolute nonsense gibberish. During these episodes, these people were incapable of forming coherent sentences. Most of it has been scrubbed from the web, but a few examples of this still exist. So let's fire up the time machine and head back to 2011, and let me show you exactly what happened to all these people during this small window of time.
Now, Defense Minister McLeod did confirm today that more than 54 18 fighter jets are spending about as much as 20 and ready to assist the 100 deployed over the amount needed. Now, it did depend that how the NOLAN remerges our end, while the university or the UN mission as whole received support from all parties in the hues of the Gardens of today.
Well, Wisconsin has officially joined 25 other states in a lawsuit against President Obama's health care reform law. Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen says Wisconsin is the latest state, including Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Ohio, and Wyoming, to join Florida's suit. The states claiming the exorcist saw Unchesracho and Palais Bringritz by health urgent.
And backstage coverage we're seeing for the very first time. So read.
Well, a very, very heavy vertation tonight. We had a very Darrison, but let's go to Terrace English for the bit, the head of the pit.
Now, when this began happening, the media immediately went into damage control mode, and they claimed that all these episodes were caused by health conditions, seizures, strokes, and even more ridiculous ideas to keep you stupid and uneducated. They worked overtime, making sure that doctors and other authority figures chimed in to explain it all away. The men and women of the bunk science cult came out in droves, waving their doublethink diplomas and letting you know that they knew more than you did. And this was nothing. It was all just a big coincidence, man. This period was very similar to the post-2020 videos that we see of people dropping on television and in videos left and right. Hundreds or even thousands of these videos exist out there showing people dropping to the ground like someone turned off a light switch. And this didn't happen pre-2020. So the only people the post-2020 disinformation campaign worked on were the mentally challenged. And that is what was so suspicious about the 2011 incidents. These strange attacks came in like a radio frequency tsunami, and it was happening all the time. And what made this even more suspicious was that this had never happened before. And coincidentally, the only people this was happening to were public speakers, almost all being people who were live on television. Now, what you have to realize is that government agencies have been finding different ways to squelch charismatic speakers who might be talking about a subject they don't like. And they have been implementing this type of stuff for decades and decades. One of their plans back in the day was to dose Castro with a drug just before a speech, something that wouldn't put him to sleep, but rather cause him to speak incoherently so that his supporters would begin to question him, metaphorically killing him by showing that he may be weak, unstable, or crazy. And it appears that during 2011, a wireless thought/speech jammer was being tested in mass, causing many speakers to completely lose their ability to speak while live on television. It was so obvious that something nefarious was going on. Even fence walkers and normie channels began talking about it. David Pakman was even alluding to the idea that something was going on.
I don't know. I mean, this is where it comes from, that people are saying, is this some kind of test that the government is doing? And that I don't know.
Hindsight is 2020. And looking back on this, we can clearly see what was happening for a few different reasons. Medical conditions causing human beings to speak gibberish on television had never happened before, especially a situation where it was case after case in a very short time period. So there is coincidence number one. Since these tests of RF speech jamming happened in 2011, this has never happened again since then. Now, this is a telltale sign of an operation. something begins to happen with people in mass and then coincidentally never happens again, it is statistically impossible that these TV personalities were all coincidentally suffering medical conditions which caused the symptom of speaking gibberish on live television within a very short period of time. And poof, it never happens again. So let's say that you are willing to believe this. You believe that many people all had random health conditions flare up on live television, and the only physical symptom was the inability to speak, as if their voice was being delayed in their own head. And this only happened for a very short window of time. Okay, you may be retarded, but fine. The problem with that type of naive thinking is this. Agencies and tech companies have been putting the finishing touches on speech jammer weapons just before these events happened. All wireless. The speaker will begin to hear their own voice, and this is delayed and looped back into their ears. When hearing this, it is impossible for the person to speak coherently, and the result is exactly what you see these people doing. Coincidentally, in 2012, the Japanese announced their creation of the speech jammer gun. Other companies and agencies came forward to speak about their speech jammer guns and weapons and even make video demonstrations, all between 2010 and 2012, with these incidents all taking place during and around 2011. Now, in this video, a low-tech wired version of this speech jamming is demonstrated. This was released in 2023, a decade after this incident started happening to people. And bringing another coincidence to the table, the symptoms of the wired version are identical to the symptoms that these TV news reporters experienced. Let's take a look and a listen.
Knew you not, Pompeii? Many a time and oft have you climbed up to.
Now that is identical to what was happening in these videos. Let's compare them. Here they are compared.
Announced needed. Now, it did depend on how the NOLAN.
Knew you not, Pompeii? Many a time and oft have you climbed up to.
Well, a very, very heavy rotation tonight. We had a very Darrison.
Knew you not, Pompeii? Many a time.
So this is the exact same thing. A decade later, people doing the exact same thing in a rinky-dink wired version. The exact same symptoms. It's undeniable. Now, in 2024, looking back on the events of 2011, here is what you have to believe to deny that RF weapons are at play and were being used on those TV reporters. One, you have to believe that this is a complete coincidence, that all these people all experienced the exact same symptoms in a very short window of time. You must believe that the fact that it has never happened on television again is a complete and total coincidence. You also have to believe that it never happening before 2011 is a complete and total coincidence. You have to believe that this happening to these people one time in their lives while on live television is a total coincidence. You have to believe the fact that all these agencies and tech companies putting their finishing touches on their speech jamming weapons between 2010 and 2012 is a complete and total coincidence. And you have to believe that the symptoms of the wired speech jammer demonstration being identical to what these people experienced was a complete and total coincidence. So if your brain is capable of doing these types of mental gymnastics for the purposes of denial, peer pressure, cognitive dissonance, or any other pathetic reason, I'd like you to take your finger or your mouse and unsubscribe from my channel, or click not interested. We cannot share the same space, not even web space. These incidents were clearly an operation to test this system on people who were live on TV, and shooting someone's voice back into their own heads in a delayed fashion is just another form of two-way voice of God weapons. The fact that this test happened 13 years ago is only shadowed by the fact that people have been subjected to voice of God weapons regularly since the late 1960s.
Announced needed. Now, it did depend on how the NOLAN.
Knew you not, Pompeii? Many a time and oft have you climbed up to.
Well, a very, very heavy rotation tonight. We had a very Darrison.
Knew you not Pompeii many a time.
So thank you for paying attention. This case is closed. We know what it was, and the symptoms are identical. So that's it for now. Look out for Charlie.
I've seen this before. Who is that?
It's the guy.
What guy?
You know, the guy we were trying to get to do Nazi stuff. You know, come on, do Nazi stuff.
Oh, yeah. Still haven't been able to get him to do Nazi stuff.
No, well, we keep trying. Look out for Charlie.
I wonder if he'd be willing to do just a little bit of Nazi stuff.